Get Pucked. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get Pucked. I'm Matt here with Dave and Vito. And this one, obviously, we know what we're going to be talking about. If you're watching us today, today's Tuesday the 18th. Big news just dropped. Big news. Finally, after a couple weeks, it seems like the search is now over. Kent Hughes, I don't know if he's dark horse necessarily, but came later in the running for whatever reasons. Well, I'm sure we're going to find out later on in the upcoming days. But Kent Hughes has been named as the 18th general manager of the Montreal Canadiens. This is a Montrealer. This is a West Islander. A little bit of represent there. This is a gentleman who is bilingual, 20-plus year veteran in the industry. Not so much currently anymore, but up until yesterday, currently was the agent for a lot of big stars out there. I think Bergeron was one of his guys, for example. So out of a box pick, like Jeff Gordon was saying, I believe so. I think he may be one of the first former player agents ever to be named as a general manager. So that's obviously a big checkbox there. Gentlemen, starting with you, Dave, I'd like to hear what you think are perhaps several pros and cons of this pick.
All right. So to get started, I like the hire. I think it's an original hire, right? It's not a retread of old guys. Obviously, the pros are that he's an original guy. He knows the CBA well. He's a player agent. He has experience. He knows the players. He knows a lot of the players. He knows how a player negotiation works. I think he'll fit right in there. He's a new guy, so he'll fit right in there under Jeff Gordon. He already has a connection with Jeff Gordon. And he'll fit right in there, be able to work together with him and learn kind of on the job under Jeff Gordon's tutelage. As far as cons, I mean, it's hard to say right off the bat what a con is, but I mean, I guess I would say his inexperience would probably be, he's not as experienced as a general manager. And you mentioned about him being probably the first player agent. Actually, Mike Gillis, if you recall, from Vancouver, was a player agent before becoming general manager of the Vancouver Canucks. And that didn't turn out that great, right? Even though he made it to the Stanley Cup final, even though he's probably considered one of the worst general managers in Vancouver history.
Okay. So look, that's a con to me, baby. That's a con. The one guy that came before him crashed and burned. Okay.
Well, yeah, but if you go on the contrast of that, you have Bill Zito in Florida, and look what he's doing.
Right. So there's obviously both, and obviously Ken Hughes is not Mike Gillis, no matter what. So you can't really
no matter what. Okay.
Compare the two. Mike Gillis's biggest failure, really, if you look back, was drafting. Right, he was terrible at that. He drafted literally nobody of importance during his entire tenure there. All the prospects they have now was after him. So I think that, they're going to name obviously a director of scouting. They have Jeff Gordon there, who's kind of in that's his kind of his specialty, quote unquote, or whatnot. So I think he's put in a good position to succeed. So I think overall it's good. Obviously we'll see more of the pros and the cons once this goes on and once he starts making deals, you'll be able to point at it. But for now, everything looks pro to me. I'm pretty happy with it.
Vito.
It's a good hire. It's different from what we predicted. I mean, we all got it wrong now. We can officially say that from the previous episodes. We had Mark Denis. We had
I think there is a point to mention just quickly that we didn't really talk about him up from the very first time we mentioned Canadiens because I don't think he was involved. Nobody reported he was there until the last second when he was pulled as one of the last guys to come in.
Well, from what I read is that he was involved, but he quickly stated that he wasn't interested.
So I mean, just sorry to interrupt, but just to speak, I was speaking with Knuckles and Stu Cowan and stuff like that, and they knew that that was their pick was Ken Hughes until basically somebody said Ken Hughes has no interest anymore, and then all of a sudden, once you say that, you can't really come back and have a hot take that Ken Hughes is going to be general manager.
Yeah. So in defense to us, we didn't pick Ken Hughes because we were under the impression he wasn't in the running. But go ahead.
Yeah, so from what I read, basically it's what Dave just stated. A lot of people believe that Kent Hughes was the guy that they all wanted, but once it showed that he wasn't interested, then they had to move on and interview the other candidates. So we have him today. Pros. I think Dave mentioned it. In terms of his negotiation, apparently he's a beast at negotiating contracts, and you can tell to a certain degree with some of the players that he's signed and whatnot. So I think that's where he's going to complement Jeff Gordon. I think Jeff Gordon's going to be the guy at the top who's going to, focus on the administration, focus on the draft, focus on things like that. And you're going to have Hughes most likely. I think he's going to have carte blanche, but they're going to speak together, and Hughes is probably going to be the one that's going to negotiate the contracts, free agency, those types of things, because that's his strength. Doesn't mean he's not going to learn other things along the way. He will. So I guess to Dave's point, also inexperience would be his con, but to really say, people are already saying this is a good signing, this is a good hire. We don't know yet, right? You can only really judge that when it's all said and done. But they believe in him and long enough to, or they believe in him enough to say that they gave him a 5-year contract. And now it leads me to think that Jeff Gordon's contract is also 5 years. We always knew it was multi-year. We just never knew what the number was. I doubt that they would hire Hughes for 5 years and not have Gordon for something similar. So now we know that it's a 5-year. It's a 5-year window.
It's around that. It's 3 to
5-year
5.
plan, baby.
It's a 5-year plan.
The new
I don't want to use that
5-year
word.
plan.
I'll say it's a 5-year tenure.
At least.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Right?
Very
At least,
good.
right? We don't know what's going to happen there. It could always change. But those are the pros and cons for me.
No, that's I'm of the same. I mean, just to chime in just briefly from how I feel about it, I like the pick. I like the out of the box sort of thinking about it. I like the complement of the two of them together. I think to me, when I look at this is going to be a by committee sort of upper management, a true by committee. I think Jeff Gordon, from what I'm perceived of him, he isn't the kind of guy that I believe needs to throw the weight around to be the number one guy. I think he made it very clear in his opening remarks to the fans when he spoke that he's here and he wants to bring in people. He wants to have more voices to help him make the better decisions. I still believe that this is Jeff Gordon's team. I think he is the GM behind the scenes. I think this hire, like you guys were saying, in terms of pros, I think from a talent and skill standpoint, you got Jeff Gordon who's going to look for the players to see and build the team, and you're going to have Hughes there to make that happen from a business and organizational
One of the aspects of this hire that I like the most is that it's not a recycled person. It's not a former player.
Yes,
it's different, right?
It's fresh. It's fresh.
It's a different perspective being brought in. It's a person who knows hockey, but who's on the other side of the table when dealing with general managers versus having a previous general manager, a former hockey player. Some hockey players come in as a general manager and tend to go after players that kind of were their style of hockey, right?
Like a defenseman? Are you talking about like
defenseman? Yeah, maybe
a reliable defenseman? Is that what you're?
I'm not saying any trusty. I'm not mentioning any positions. I'm just saying. I think it's fresh. It's different, right?
No, it is.
Out of the box for sure, and that's what I like the most.
And what's cool also is that he seems to be sought after, right? You don't often hear that with the Canadiens, is that a coach or a general manager was sought after, right? They tried to get him as assistant general manager in New York. In Boston, they were flirting with him also, and he just didn't
the tie there is Jeff Gordon, right? Gordon and him have
tie
had.
Jeff Gordon,
they're buddies. Yeah,
it still seems to be. He's a hockey mind that people are looking after, right? And I think that's interesting because you don't often hear that. He
still has a lot of ties to Montreal.
Only hire really that
Despite him living in Boston for the last 20 years, he still has a lot of ties to Montreal. I mean,
all of his clients almost are.
Well, and he's a private investor so from what I read up, he's a private investor in certain hockey rinks and stuff like that. He's got his family here. His parents are here and stuff. So he's got still a lot of ties to
West
Montreal.
Island, baby.
Yeah, his West Island roots and stuff. No, this could be an incredibly big turning point in this organization. Fresh blood in, guys with roots here. Well, one in particular, the GM with actual roots here. It's exciting. It's exciting times. But I want to pick up just quickly on something that Dave mentioned because it was actually my next question. Do you guys believe there's a need to name a head of scouting or an assistant GM, Lola? Or can this be done off season, or does it need to be done at all? Maybe the head of scouting, yes, I guess.
I think
does the team need an assistant GM too? Is my main question.
I think the head of scouting can wait. They don't have to rush it. I'm not saying that it has to be tomorrow. Like they need to get it in a couple of months. But if it happens like a month from now, it's not a horrible thing, because most people that they would hire as a scout or as a head of scout, they're still keeping up to date with a lot of the players that are going to be in this upcoming draft, right? The assistant GM, I think, is a priority, because now you want to really lay that foundation. We're finished. This is what we're going to have. It is what it is. I will add those to something to the assistant GM. I know we wanted to say we said Emily Castonguay would have been great as a GM or bring her in, but now I question: do you want 2 player agents in that role? I kind of feel like now that we have Kent Hughes as the general manager and who is a former player agent and is a good negotiator
That's
and all that,
fair.
maybe it
Yeah.
would benefit to having a more of a players GM to kind of balance out and really have the call it the tandem or the team between Gordon, Hughes, and a player, a guy who really knows how to be in the room and then knows stuff on the administration side. So I'm going to throw the name out there. I'm still going to throw out the Mark Denny, but I think he would make a great assistant general manager to Kent Hughes.
Interesting. All right. Well, I actually think it's reverse. I think you need to get your head of scouting immediately, just because you need to get in line of what the organization wants and needs and what their philosophy is on drafting, right? I mean, yeah, you are, depending on who they're going to go get, he's probably very active, or he or she are probably very active right now inside the scouting game, but you still need to get in line with the organization. And the draft is not far away, man. We're already 2022. So I think you need to name that quickly. And also, just because of who it was before and the history of the Canadiens drafting positions, I think you want to get them. You don't want to put all that pressure of them coming in, having to meet the media, deal with the media, and then pick it. Like for me, it's a lot at once, right? I would have them sooner rather than later, maybe even tomorrow. I don't know where that's going to go. As far as an AGM, I don't even know if there's a need to name one, really. What does an AGM do, really, on a day-to-day basis? You often see them named way later in the tenure, right? When Bergevin was hired, they didn't name his AGM, right? Eventually, it went down the line. It seems to be a ploy to kind of say, like, oh, look, things are going badly, we're adding this person as my AGM, and, to switch things up. I don't think there's any rush at all to name an AGM. Everyone seems intent on this AGM thing. They already kind of have an AGM. That's what Kent Hughes is.
Thank you.
No offense, but
no, but I feel the exact same way. I think you nailed it precisely. I think you need a head of scouting ASAP. In my opinion, you want to fill all your pieces in as fast as possible. Start working together so that you have a clear understanding and a clear vision, and you all work towards the same goal. Like you said, you don't want to hire a head of scouting a couple weeks before the draft or do the draft and then bring someone in and
hold
do
on.
Like
I'm not saying a couple of weeks before the draft, but at the same time, I'm going to say this: Montreal, we know they're going to be drafting in the top 5. So if you look at the prospects coming up, they're pretty much interchangeable from what people are saying in terms of the top
that makes
5,
it even harder.
right?
That makes it even harder.
Well,
exactly.
yes, but at the same time, it's not
that...
like as though they'd be at 15, 16, 17, 18 drafting around there, and you really gotta we gotta hit the ground running there. But
you want your pieces in place, right?
And apparently,
an important position.
There are people who believe that they already have a head scout in mind that they're going to probably hire. It's just a question of if they're going to finalize it, confirm it, and all that. So we'll see what happens there. But I would get the AGM because you have the trade deadline coming up, and they could benefit from somebody like a Mark Denny there.
I don't think that there's a problem with having an AGM
plus the draft,
but I don't believe the team needs it.
Well, Jeff Gordon one of his strengths is drafting, right?
Well, that's it. But
so in the time being,
I mean, you have the right head. Then he hired the right neck. Now you got to worry about the pieces below, and you got to get that in place so that when you're ready to go, you're a full-bodied organization and you're ready to actually work together. And the sooner you get these things in place, the better. It's going to be fun to see maybe a day or two down the road from now, once the real heat of this hire dies down. All you're going to be seeing is, okay, well, when's the next head of scouting coming? Who's it going to be? Like that. Like, people want this kind of stuff because it's important.
Actually, I don't even think people are going to think of that. People are going to think about, okay,
people
we got
are already talking about.
Yeah, but hold on. People are going to be saying the GM's there now. He's going to have his press conference tomorrow. What are we rebuilding? What's the trade?
Well, for sure they're going to adjust the rebuild, and that was another question I had for you guys. What do you think is going to be brought up tomorrow, and how confident are you that they're going to mention something about rebuild? Was it part of the interview process when they talked to all the candidates, but in particular Kent Hughes, and said, listen, you're going to come in, you see the team standing, you see how they're playing, you just look at the game yesterday in Arizona, you see what's out there. What do you think this team needs to do? Retool, rebuild, retouch, whatever the hell. Do you think they're going to touch on that tomorrow?
I think that it was definitely one of the main topics in the interview process, and I think that touch on it. Maybe obviously they're going to touch on it because there's going to be a reporter that's going to.
Well, they're going to ask about it without question.
So you're going to have to answer that, and I think that they'll be diplomatic, kind of what the same thing of Jeff Gordon said. Kind of look, we're going to try to retool on the fly, but like. To not try, we're going to try to rebuild properly, but not cause too much pain for our fan base. That's probably the messaging that I'm seeing coming out of this rebuild, but to be patient and, we're going to rebuild this thing properly and take our time, but it won't be too long. So stay tuned. That's the messaging I'm kind of going to get. And yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to get all sorts of random questions. These press conferences usually drag out, especially big ones like this, drag out people who aren't even covering sports that come to ask questions. And they're going to ask things about Carey Price, and they're going to ask, and they just, with Chantal Machabée there, you could guarantee that it's going to be better answers than when Marc Bergevin stumbled through most of them. They're going to have a team in place really to really get their messaging straight. I'm interested to see Kent Hughes' French. That's one of my things that I'm interested to see how his French is. I know it's not important, whatever, I don't care, but I'm just interested. I don't even know really what he looks like. I mean, we see the bald picture, we see a picture with him with hair. What does he look like now, today? I don't know. I haven't seen a picture of him. I don't know what he looks like. I don't know how he speaks.
Have you not followed our Instagram, Dave?
I see that. Like. Is that a recent picture? When was that picture taken? I don't know.
I don't know. I'll be honest.
Now? This is COVID times, my friend. Maybe it's wild. I don't know what he looks like. I don't know what he sounds like. I don't know how he speaks. Is he eloquent? Is he going to swear? Is he going to drop F-bombs? That's things to me that are interesting because the messaging is going to be so controlled during the press conference, no matter what, Chantal Machabée or not, that we're probably not going to get everything. They're not going to reveal all their hands, right? They're going to keep stuff close to the vest.
No, there's gonna be some phrases or some things that they're gonna say that are gonna remind us of the way it was before, just because they don't want to put their foot in their mouth, right? We know this.
Of course.
No, but there's a reason why the press conference is not today. You dropped it and named it early enough today. They could have easily had a press conference at 3-4 o'clock today. They're for sure giving him a day. They're going to sit him down. Chantal's there. She's going to say they're going to come at you with all this shit.
I can answer that because what I read is that, and I think Chantal Machabée had even mentioned it, is that they're traveling.
Yeah, okay, they can't. It's fucking COVID, man.
I get that, but they're everywhere. If tomorrow, Gordon and Hughes are going to be in Montreal, apparently.
Yeah, okay. Listen. It's a fantastic narrative from a marketing and from a PR standpoint. There's a reason. They're going to tell him she's going to be there. It's all worked itself into the right thing. This guy, probably Jeff Gordon told Chantal when she was hired a week or two ago and said, listen, this is likely my guy. You know what the fan base is going to say, a small contingent of the fan base that are going to say about the hiring of an Anglophone Montrealer who happens to speak perfect French. But be that as it may, we're going to have to address that. They're going to come at you and talk to you about what do you see about potentially doing with Carey Price? What do you see about Shea Weber? What do you want to do? Questions that he wouldn't be ready to go for if he had to talk today. So I suspect, like Dave is saying, I'm very curious to see what the organization is feeling about these things, because that's what he's going to be saying. He'll have his own piece of it about how he feels, but what he says, I predominantly expect it to be what the organization is feeling about these things. Chantal is there for transparency, and I believe that that Hughes is going to be that vehicle between us and the organization to express these things. So I'm curious, like Dave said, how is the message going to come out? Is he going to be like a firecracker? I don't know anything about him. Is he going to be fast and wild? Is he going to be stern? Is he going to be more somber? Is he going to be more like Jeff Gordon, where it was a little bit more subdued and a little joke here and there, and it was very businessy? I'm curious to see the individual. That, to me, I think is the biggest takeaway for tomorrow. What kind of guy is he? What's he made of? That's what I like to see on stage tomorrow. I think that's going to be very exciting.
I agree.
I'm happy you do, gentlemen. Switching gears quickly, though. We got news also today. 2 more Montreal Canadiens have found themselves in COVID protocol. This time it's Cole Caulfield, which sucks because we like to see him out there, albeit used completely incorrectly. And Armia for the 7th time, 8th time, 3rd time? 3rd time this guy's in COVID protocol. I mean, it's more of the same. There's not really a question behind it, but I mean, I guess my question is, how long until scientists come down and steal Nick Suzuki away and take his blood and look for the antidote or something that's there? Because this guy is like the Iron Man compared to fighting this virus. He's the last one, I believe.
He has not gotten it, and poor Armia has gotten it 3 times. Like, this guy is a magnet for COVID. He's got more COVID cases than goals.
My theory, and here's a hot take, you could leak it to the media if you onto the social media if you want, is that Nick Suzuki is a loner. He has no friends. Everyone on the team hates him, and he has no interaction with anybody. That's my take. I'm just joking about that, by the way. Please don't use that as the promo. But I mean, what other explanation is there, right?
Nick,
he doesn't hang out with
his immune system is phenomenal. What if he's just a healthy guy?
People and Nick Suzuki, Dave is a Get Pucked person. He's a co-host on Get Pucked, but he does not represent our thoughts 100%.
Yeah. That's
you guys did that to me.
That's spicy. Listen, jokes aside, I mean, it sucks. I bring it up because I was gonna talk about the game yesterday with Arizona, which is to say, on one hand, it's great that the losses continue to pile up for those that are in the route for the tank and want the high draft pick and all that stuff. And count me as one of them. I mean, at this point, I think the season is completely lost and unsalvageable, and I'd much prefer to see a higher draft pick insured. Granted, you're never guaranteed a first overall, but the more losses you have, the higher the chance that you can get it. So keep it coming. My beef is they looked awful against the most awful team in the league. I mean, you can say it's the Habs now because they are, but I mean, frankly, the perennial, basement dweller that is the Arizona Coyotes, when they score 5 goals on you and they looked like it was easy to do. And I understand Primo is in net and people aren't really big on him and you got guys in and out, but I mean, what do you guys think is it like, what should the fans do or what do you guys do to help deal with this? You know what I mean? You watch your team go out there. You watch them look like how they looked game in and game out. I don't think they've won a game this calendar year. Like, yes, we're hoping for the first overall pick and a high round pick and the losses are important, but how do you maintain any semblance of like intrigue or cheering for that matter for your team in a situation like this? Start with you, Vito. How do you do it, baby?
I don't think there's much
cheering. Out of ideas.
I don't think there's much cheering. For me, I distract myself with counting down the days till trade deadline and, anticipating and trying to figure out who's going to be the first person to move. And now that we have a new GM in place, they could focus on that. In addition, I mean, I look at the standings and it's like, okay, we want Arizona to kind of get a few more points and really cement Montreal as being sadly the worst team in the league. That's the only way I could, and a lot of complaining and venting on Twitter. That's how I get through that moment. And sometimes I tweet something I shouldn't, but it is what it is.
Look, it's no secret. Like, we don't work for the PR of the Montreal Canadiens. It's not good hockey. It's not fun to watch. It's hard to build yourself up and say, like, yes, I am going to watch the Canadiens play the Arizona Coyotes tonight. Like, it's hard. It's hard to build yourself up for that. It's hard to see, and it's tough. To me, what's hardest to watch is that these players seem like they've mailed it in, right? Like, Mike Hoffman looked awful. And same thing with Christian Dvorak. Same thing with, like, these guys who you are hoping, Ben Sherratt, these guys who you're hoping get value are now going to have to do it all on reputation, because the way they're playing now, it's not even it's if I didn't know that the NHL was so stupid in the terms of they just at the trade deadline, everyone kind of loses their minds and overpays for reputation and whatnot. And because somebody in the newspaper wrote it would be a good trade, they do it and go out and trade crazy things for crazy people. I would be concerned. I'd be like, oh man, Ben Sherratt has just written himself out of a first round pick. Same thing with Mike Hoffman, untradeable. But I know that's not how the NHL works. The NHL works on reputation and what have you done for me in the past. And Ben Sherratt will still get that first round pick most likely. And same thing with Mike Hoffman. Barring an injury, right? Like that's the one thing that you hope. I mean, I guess if there's one thing you could say while watching these Habs games is you hope that these guys don't get injured anymore.
Well, and that's the thing too, right? Like, we're hoping that they don't get injured, but now we're at the point where I know they say that it's better to wait as close as possible to the trade deadline. But if the right offer comes along and it's good enough and it gives you that piece that you're actually looking for and happens to give you something else, make that move before you do lose that asset. And then you're going to lose that asset anyway.
I just think the GMs of the other teams are watching the Habs right now, and they know. And I think to a certain degree, their trade value stock is tanking. And you get closer to trade deadline, yes, maybe not on the day of, but I think the longer they wait, the more appealing it is for other teams saying, well, your guy is like, I mean, we can go get this guy and this guy and this guy. Yes,
right, but
prior to the shit play that they're doing, yeah, they wouldn't have been as good candidates. But right now, look at your guy. Your guy is a bum out there. No, I'm not giving you a
Matt, that's that's the logical way of seeing things, and that's what me and you and anybody else would do. But NHL GMs lose their minds on trade deadline day. They panic. I don't know what the heck it is. We've seen it time and time again. Just stupidity after stupidity. I don't see.
Honestly, Dave, you know what I think? I think they have all their players in their roster lined up on a whiteboard or whatever tool they use today. And if they're missing that one piece, and there seems to be a team that's at the bottom has that piece, that's where they lose their shit. They lose their shit on it. I got to get that piece because we're going to win the cup. We're missing that piece to get the cup.
Well, everybody thinks that their team could rehabilitate. Everybody believes someone comes to our team, they're going to be great again. They're going to flourish again under our team.
And to me, this is a hockey thing more than any other sport. Yeah. No other sport is crazy like this in terms of doing stupid things. But that's what it is.
I mean, look at the Tampa Bay Lightning, right? Wow. And we can't question it. I mean, they traded first round picks for Coleman, Goudreau, and Savard, albeit in separate years, but they did it and they won the cup. So people always look at that as an example.
You think they'll trade Montreal a first round pick for Savard again?
I think Montreal would let go of Savard for just about anything.
I want to ask you guys another question, because this might have been a question better suited to have asked a while ago, and shit, maybe I did already, but you know what, I can't remember, so I'm going to ask it again. What do you say to those out there, small minority, I suppose, I hope it is, that constantly like to write something into the ether about like, they're scratching my head. 6 months ago, this team was in the Stanley Cup Finals and they were great. And now 6 months later, they're the worst team in the league, and it looks like there's no hope for them. What do you say to these people? I know what I'm going to say.
It's a completely different fucking team. Completely. You don't have Carey Price. You don't have Shea Weber. You don't have Corey Perry. You don't have Danault. You don't have Kotkaniemi. And none of these players were truly replaced properly. That's what I would say. Somebody like Andrew Raycroft keeps bringing that up. The guy's a dumbass. I don't care if he's a former
player. He is a Toronto Maple Leaf legend.
Yeah.
It's more than just him. It's more than just him.
No, it's more than him. But most recently, he's the one that's written that. It's because it's a completely different fucking team.
It's people who don't watch. Andrew Raycroft probably doesn't watch hockey too much anyways. He glances, reads the headlines, and that's it. And then you come up with a hot take like that. How is this the same team that went to the... You're right. But the real answer, there's obviously some aspect.
Tell me, Dave.
The real answer is that last year was a fairy tale. You could have iced the exact same team this year. They wouldn't be far off. I'm a strong believer of where they are now. Look at the
fairy tales have good endings.
Okay. Well, I guess some of them do. I guess you need to read the grim ones.
The German ones are a little,
But I'm telling you, you could have iced the same roster for the next 10 years, and you would have never recreated it. Look at Cole Caulfield. Look at everybody. It was like magic in a bottle for that exact time and space in the world. Everything came together and it worked. Yes, it's a different team this year, but they still have the pieces. I mean, they replaced here or there. They shouldn't have been down this terrible, right? Last place in the league. That's still a little bit of a shock. But this team was going to be bad regardless, because last year's team was bad too. I hate to say it, man. It was not a good team. They were 24th in the league and made it to the Cup final because their goalie got hot and they went on a hot run. That's it. They weren't built properly, and they still aren't built properly. So to me, that's the real answer. The answer, you could say, it's not the same team, but I'm not 100% convinced that if you get Corey Perry back and you get Carey Price back and you get Danault back and Kotkaniemi back and you get Dvorak and Hoffman out of there, that's going to to be that much of a
you're
difference.
maybe right. It won't
make them the number one contender. Yeah, without question. They should be in the top 10.
Top 10?
If they would have kept the exact same team.
Top 10 of the league?
Second. Hold on. You come off the cup run, right? Barring any of the COVID and anything, let's say, everything being equal. They come off, they continue the play, they go back to the regular divisions and stuff. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying they're the second best team in the league. They could have been 10th, 11th, 12th, not 24, 25, 26, 27. Because I think you're right, Dave. I think there's a big part of this that if you ice the same team, there was lightning in a bottle. You don't go 24th to the Stanley Cup without having an incredible lucky streak. Hold on. They shouldn't be this bad, and it is not. It's a mixture of what you're both saying. To a degree, it is. It isn't the same team. Those guys could have brought them further.
Even if you ice the same team, would they be a top 10? Absolutely not. Would they be battling for a playoff spot? Maybe in a playoff spot? Probably. But at the same time, I'm going to throw this out again. They have a really, really bad coach that would fuck things up. Because at the end of the season, when we got into the playoffs, I don't even think it was Ducharme that was coaching that team. Or driving the bus, if you will. I think it was a combination of the veterans that are now gone.
I mean, that's fair, I guess. At the end of the day, you would need, in order for the Canadiens to be in the top 10 or even the top 16 or the top 24, again, you would have needed Carey Price to play the way he played in the Stanley Cup final, which is just not sustainable. You can't have a guy play like that all the time. It's
fine. But before everything went to shit, I mean, Jake Allen was playing very good hockey. The problem was the team in front of him was playing abysmal.
Carey Price playing godlike. I
understand.
You'll never see a goalie performance like Carey. People were suggesting he win the Conn Smythe as the losing goaltender. This was an insane goalie performance in this day and age, right? The last time this happened was J.S. Giguère back in 2002 or 3 or 4, whatever the hell it was, 2003, I think. And it was a different era of hockey, right? In this era, it's never been done before. Carey Price was a monster last year. He would need to be the same. Jake Allen played very good hockey. I wouldn't even say he was 70% of what Carey Price was last year.
No, I'm not saying Jake Allen's Carey Price. I'm simply saying that if you would have had the exact same pieces that you had last year and you put them here and they maintained, which is perhaps not sustainable, but they maintained at least 80% of what they were doing in the playoffs, that team would be in the top 16 in the league.
Well, they'd be a playoff team because you'd have to look at it this way. There wouldn't be a glaring hole that Shea Weber left behind. Not everything would have fallen on Petrie's shoulders at the defensive side of things. Then you look up front, or even
but guys, again,
these things.
Shea Weber, again, was crap during the regular season last year, right? He was a beast in the playoffs because that the playoffs are fine-tuned for him. The refs put their whistles away and they let everything go. I don't think they would have been that great in the regular season.
Year. I understand. I get you. I'm even going to concede and say, okay, you're right. You're right to a certain degree that Shea Weber was crap. But he was really not worse than Savard.
Okay, obviously.
It is a combination. The point is, it's a combination of the two things. I think and the third part being Dom Ducharme, who's now had a season's worth of his influence, and quite obviously that being quite negative, versus being kind of thrusted in there, and maybe, like you say, the players just elevating and doing what they do in playoff hockey, which is how much coaching happens in playoff hockey. It's the players out there really performing and doing what they do and making the magic happen. I agree with that, but why is it that it's so difficult for these guys, these Raycrofts and Jack Todd I saw the other day, and these other people of that ilk? Why do they keep saying it? Is it just for clicks? Is it just to cause controversy? Or do these people actually not understand?
Because they suck. They're just a bunch of negative people that just want to stir up shit. Some people just want to watch the world burn. And Andrew Raycroft's career sucked, and his takes suck.
He was a rookie of the year. You pay some respect to Andrew Raycroft, okay?
Yeah, the best thing that he ever did was get traded for Tuukka Rask.
Yeah, look, I think that Vito hit it on the head. He was negative. Like the people you named, some of them very negative people, right? That they can never be happy. They can never do this. Everything has to be negative, and that's their narrative. They have a negative narrative, and that's how it is. That's how it always will be. and that's okay. I mean,
Brendan
that's
Kelly's another one of those, and he's a Montreal Gazette guy. He's from Montreal.
I mean,
This guy
listen,
takes
listen.
every
Brendan Kelly.
opportunity.
Let's get this straight for Brendan Kelly. Just I don't want to shit on Brendan Kelly, and I think that a lot of people take Brendan Kelly out of context. Brendan Kelly is not a sports reporter. He is a reporter for the Gazette on art. Okay, he's an art and culture reporter. He reviews movies. He reviews play openings. That's what he does. He has a segment in the Gazette that he writes for fun as a fan. So I think that the hate that he gets is not really warranted, because you shouldn't take his opinion seriously.
He puts his opinion out there.
Yeah,
I have full right to shit on it,
fine,
and
but
it
that's
is
his opinion.
bad takes. He has bad takes.
That is fair to say, but
Yes.
you can't put him in the same category as a sports journalist, because
I
he's
agree.
not getting paid to be
I
that.
agree. No, it's fair. I guess my question comes from a point where, at this point, if you call yourself a hockey fan, and particularly if you call yourself a Montreal Canadiens fan, and you're taking the time to actually put forth the energy to write something like, "Ooh, I don't understand. Why are they not the same team?" and you put that out there, I have to assume you're doing it to be a troll, or like you're just the most oblivious fan that I've ever seen. And the sad part is, you see this more and more. Now, there's other fans from other fan bases that come out there just to kind of like puff their chest, because yes, Toronto hates us, and there's these other fan bases that are very, relishing the opportunity now to shit all over the Canadiens being in the basement. But it just doesn't compute to me how you can look at this team and say, my God, how did this happen? I don't understand. They were in the Stanley Cup. It was only 6 months ago. How could this be? When you're watching the game, you look at the roster, and you can't put two and two together.
But most of the time, it's from people who aren't watching the games. I'm telling you, it's people
then they should shut up.
read the headlines, they see the Montreal Canadiens, and they see them in last place, and they're like, "Oh, what happened here? How could it be?" Because it is a crazy thing if you think about it. Like, what other sport has a team going from first to last that quickly? That with granted a lot of turnover, but not crazy amount of turnover. Like, it's not bananas the amount of turnover.
You lose your all-star goalie that your team is basically built around. You lose your captain. You lose your number one center. You lose like what else? Your grit leadership and Perry, even Stahl for that matter.
You have to also throw in the fact that everybody's been sick and injured this year too. So
the injuries and the COVID. That's an excellent point. Excellent point.
There's a million reasons.
You're icing the AHL team. Yeah. But anyways, food for thought. I was curious what your take is.
Before we end off this episode, okay, I want to use what you just said about people tweeting and there's a negative people and all that stuff, and I need to get something off my chest. I need to vent. All right.
I like it.
I've been seeing a lot of people writing on Twitter about, and it's a certain, call it a minority, a certain bunch of the Montreal fan base, if you even want to call them Montreal fans, they're coming out saying that Kent Hughes has been hired as the GM, and it's a horrible hire because his family name is not that of a French descent or of a French family name. It's Anglophone. And even though he's bilingual, he is an Anglophone and he's not a true Quebecer. Now, for all you shitheads who are saying this, okay, he is a Quebecer. I don't have a Francophone family name. I don't. I've been in Quebec my entire life. I'm born and raised here. Okay? Hughes was born and raised in Montreal. He speaks French. Before, the criteria was that the general manager, he needs to speak French. This guy does it. He can't speak French. He's bilingual. Okay? Give him a chance. Stop it, because the only other GM who's had an Anglophone name or an English name since Serge Savard is Bob Gainey. All right? My dog is pissed about this too. And you know what? Look at this. It's since Bob Gainey. And what has the Montreal Canadiens become since then? They're still at the bottom. Nothing has happened. Nothing has worked. We tried it your way. It didn't work. Now we have somebody. We still cater to that need that you have to speak French. He got it. So shut your face. Give this person a chance and let it go. It doesn't matter what his name is. It doesn't matter. The majority of Montreal is multicultural. This guy is
There's your promo, by the way. It doesn't matter what his name is.
The guy is from here. It's not like, he's been living in Boston for 20 years. So has Ray Bourque. Ray Bourque can speak French. How many snowbirds leave for 6 months a year and live in Florida for 6 months a year? Does it mean they don't give a shit about Quebec? They're still Quebecers.
It's a very, very, very small
I think
vocal minority.
But the problem is they're loud enough to stir up shit. And unfortunately,
Yeah.
they need to sit down because a lot of those people that are complaining are not even Montreal Canadiens fans. They're just
But these
stupid
people, and
active
again,
neck.
but you must be seeing them. You must be following the wrong people or something, or you just you cast your net too wide on social media. Everybody's going to say what they're going to say. The worst part about it is, and the part that you need to come to terms with is, there's no convincing them otherwise. They talk to themselves. It's an echo chamber. They only want to hear their own things, and it doesn't matter. Even if Kent Hughes brings a cup here, he'll always be an Anglophone first, bilingual second, and like a guy who was born here, but he's not a real Quebecer.
I don't want to make
It
this a
doesn't
political issue. I don't want to make it a political issue, but at the same time, I'm going to say this: it's hockey. It's not politics. It's the Montreal Canadiens. There's fans all over the world. They cater to the need. English and French, they cater to it, and that's where I'm going to leave that off.
To me, it's par for the course, right? Because we, the English community bitches that they have to hire someone with a friend that's bilingual, and now when they hire someone who's bilingual, like, it's just par for the course. People are gonna bitch. That's what people do on social media. You gotta take the 5% here, and you take the 5% there, and you discount them, and you focus on good. And if people are annoying you on social media, stop following them. Just mute them, and that's it, man.
Bitch that the team sucks. You can bitch at that all you want. You could even say that they're the worst team ever. I don't care. I'll deal with that.
But the Habs transcend
yes,
sport, though.
They are a religion in this province, and they are steeped with culture. And the culture of our province is deeply rooted in a francophone type slant, and that's fine. All three of us here speak French. We grew up here. We learned how to speak French. You know, that's natural for us. The thing that's upsetting is you have fans and other people that come and you know, you got immigrants that come here as well, and they try to assimilate in the culture. And one of the best and easiest ways for people to do that is to get on board with local teams and stuff, and they want to show support, and they haven't got their French up to snuff yet, and then all of a sudden they feel ostracized by these small vocal minority. And like you say, they should shut up, but the best way to shut them up is to ignore them, because they're never going to stop. So that's all there is to it. I understand completely your feelings about it. I think it is dumb. I think to even criticize somebody based on their maternal language, even though they speak the language you want them to speak, is a really dumb thing to do. But I'm happy you got it off. You feel better?
Fuck no, I don't feel better.
Hopefully you feel better in the next couple days. All right. Well, listen, we're gonna end it there. We're gonna end it there before Vito goes nuclear. Thank you everybody very much for listening again. This was Get Pucked. This was episode I don't even remember at this point, but it's in the teens somewhere.
It's 15.
15, there you go. Drop us a follow, drop us a like if you can. We really, really appreciate it. You know, tell your friends, your cousins, your nephews, your gardeners, whatever. Let them know. We, again, really appreciate every single one of you, and we very much look forward to doing the next one for your listening or viewing entertainment. I'm Matt. There's Dave. There's Vito. This was Get Pucked. Get Pucked.